Before I come back to the risks, I want to talk a little bit about the risks of each of these types of activities, coal-fired power and fracking, and what the scientific community has to say about all that in a second. But before we do that, it's important to recognize that risk is not the same thing as uncertainty, and then both are present in both of these policy arenas. So you have a mass of people that might not know a whole lot about this. You have a small group of people that might know a lot about it and have an opinion, and might want to characterize the risks to try and influence others. They're trying to persuade. But you also have uncertainty that's present. If risk is the probability of harm times the magnitude of the harm, we could think of risk that way, right? We can make a distinction between situations where we know that pretty well, both the probability and the harm pretty well. We may have a body of epidemiological literature that tells us what happens to people when they breathe in these pollutants, and we may have a pretty good idea of how many people are going to breathe them in if we emit this certain amounts of them. Then that's a relatively low level of uncertainty. We are able to characterize the risk there. But there are other fields in which we don't know much about the harm yet, or we're still learning about the harm, and we may not even know much about the probability that individuals will experience the harm if we take a particular course of action. So we have to make a distinction between those two things. And sometimes we can't confirm the harm, or we don't yet know what the harm is or what the probability of harm will be. When we have a lot of uncertainty about something, attempts by lobbyists or others or politicians or others who want to persuade you to characterize the risk in a certain way is misleading when we don't really know what the risk is.